All right. Well, Money in the Bank pretty much just finished up. This is JML. This is the Chamber Pod. We were supposed to have Charles on. I don't know what happened. Sure he's I hope he's okay. Maybe he'll pop in. Joining me is my Spin Rate Cast Pod podcast Cast Pod member, Mr. Frank. And besides knowing baseball, Frank is also a huge WWE wrestling fan, and that's how we actually pretty much formed our friendship, was over wrestling, and then then baseball. So very interesting live event that just took place. We'll get right into the women's match, since that was the first match. I thought it was okay, the match. It was a little wonky. I didn't really like the spot on the outside of the ring that they lauded Becky for. Like, she pretty much missed Asuka, and they're like, oh my god, she took such a huge risk. I'm like, no, she didn't. She didn't even want to jump. It was just, I don't know. The one impressive thing, and I got a text from Charlie during the show. He's like, Raquel and Asuka, that like needs to happen at some point. And I said, yes. I said, and I think I said this in the first episode of our show. Asuka, in my opinion, is the best female wrestler, not just in WWE, but pretty much any company. Because she's so versatile. She can work with any sized woman and in any skill level and make it look as good as possible. I don't know how you feel about that statement. That's just personally how I feel when it comes to Asuka.
Yeah, I really couldn't argue against that, to be honest. She's definitely proven, no matter what they have her do, whether doesn't matter which side of the heel face line she's on, she's always bringing it. She always brings the best out of her opponents, like you said. She has chemistry with a wider range of opponents. Going back to NXT,
Yeah.
I've never seen her really have like a really bad match. If it is, it's probably not her fault. Tonight, obviously, I think having too many people in these ladder matches sometimes drags it down. In this case, it might have been. I didn't get to see the entire match, I'll be honest. I was on my way home, but when I saw, yeah, it was a little bit sloppy. I did like that they did showcase Raquel. Obviously, I think they have high hopes for her and some big plans for her, and she's definitely improved tenfold since I even first saw her live at a couple of Evolve shows and Shine shows a couple of years ago. So yeah, she's definitely one to watch. Asuka, like you said, she brings it all the time. And she can just work with anybody, make anything get over it, essentially. And she is kind of bulletproof in a sense. The fans always react to her. As far as everything else, I kind of thought, actually, going back to last year's Money in the Bank, which was like their first event where they bring the fans back, and then Liv did get a big reaction on that show.
Yeah.
And I thought, and I said, I think I might even told you a year ago, I said, I think next year, that could be one of my early picks. And after her series with Becky early this year, I thought, yeah, that would make the most sense. And I'm glad they pulled the trigger.
Yep. They pulled the trigger. The crowd was definitely behind it. It's feel good story. Because when she first started, she certainly wasn't the greatest wrestler in the world, and she's definitely worked really hard to improve, not only in the ring, but establish a character and establish a persona. And my hat's off to her. And obviously she won the briefcase, which is great. And I guess instead of going in match order, I guess we'll just roll right into the SmackDown Women's title match, which was Natalya and Ronda, which was actually a decent match. It was, with Ronda, you're going to get some sloppiness because she's just not smooth, but Natalya certainly makes up for that. Ronda gets the win. Ronda is nursing the injury, and I didn't think that we were going to get the cash in, but we ended up getting the cash in, and it looked like Liv was going to tap out, and I'm like, oh man, this would be the worst cash-in attempt in history, and the fans will just forget it. They'll explode if Ronda makes Liv just tap out and lose the Money in the Bank that quickly. But no, Liv counters out, does a roll up, wins the SmackDown Women's title. Fans go nuts. The one thing I'm concerned about is Liv was limping. I just hope it's selling the spot and it's not a real injury, because that would definitely suck for Liv. And the "you deserve it" thing happens a lot, but I think for Liv Morgan, she certainly deserved it. I don't know how long they're going to roll with her as champion, but she certainly deserved this moment, and it's a culmination of 8 years of hard work. And let's be honest, there's probably several times in her career where she was probably on the chopping block of females that were going to get released. And there was a bunch of times in her career where they had nothing to do for her. So she made it out of all those circumstances to win such a high profile match. It speaks a lot about her and her determination to succeed. So you want to add anything?
Well, yeah, I mean, pretty much echo what you just said. And yeah, it's been a great story, and it's something that feels earned, and it's something that she earned the crowd's respect over the last number of years. Starting off in NXT, she was kind of like a nondescript kind of character.
Yeah,
kind of got thrown. She kind of just got thrown into the main roster when they put the Riot Squad together out of nowhere. But she always seemed to find a way to get attention, to do something that stood out. And yeah, like you said, she definitely had to have been in a spot sometimes where you were very concerned with her when she disappeared off TV for many months. They didn't know what they were going to do with her. They brought her back with that awful Rusev Lana storyline, but she persevered.
Yeah.
She kept working hard, getting better. I mean, she's never going to be the most talented technical wrestler, but she's gotten to a spot where the crowd legitimately cares about her and wants to see her win, and that's a good thing. It's not like a year ago they tried that with Nikki Cross or Nikki Ash. Didn't seem like they were the crowd. She was popular, but not like to this extent. You know what I'm trying to say? It seemed like that seemed more of a forced situation. This felt like and the fact that she cashed in against Ronda, not like a true heel. Although the crowd was obviously tonight was very going to be heavily against Ronda a little bit, especially the way she was playing, which I thought was interesting. The way she was playing more of a heel in the match with Natty.
Yeah.
The match itself was pretty decent. I didn't think it was as good as they had a previous match of Raw during Ronda's last run that I thought was really good. But I mean, this whole little story they put together was pretty good. It was history involved with the two. We've seen it on the screen. So for a little last second program, it was kind of cool. And the segment as a whole, it led up to that big moment. And yeah, it was, hey, give the fans what they want. Novel concept, right?
Because they certainly didn't at the end of the night. We'll continue on the women's division train. We had a match, Bianca and Carmella. This is kind of thrown together in the last 2 weeks because Ripley's injury. So Carmella, basically took her spot in the match. And you knew walking in that Bianca was going to, win this match. It seems like they really don't have much much of a plan for SummerSlam, and I think Ripley's going to be out a little bit more than we anticipated. So it looks like Carmella's probably just going to get another match with Bianca at SummerSlam, considering the post-match scenario.
Yeah, I was a little confused by the post match. I thought they were teasing maybe a cash in situation there, but obviously they didn't go there. Um, I had thought that this was, they were setting up the Becky Bianca big rematch for SummerSlam. It would make sense. They've been holding it off all these months. They haven't had as much interactions.
Yeah.
So I could have seen that, but like you said, that little post match, I don't know if that's leading to a bigger thing or if that's just something that they can blow off on TV. Carmella is, a serviceable opponent. She could be like, she was thrown in there last second. She plays a heel real well. She's improved a lot over the years, so it was fine for what it was. Bianca, obviously, one of the most talented, not even just females, one of the most talented wrestlers out there. I'll be honest. I don't know if anybody else thinks that, but she's definitely proven herself. I'm kind of glad that they didn't have Liv, like I said, cash in on her, because that would have been a whole like too similar to last year's whole thing with Becky coming back. Plus, if that feud's still going to happen, like Liv would probably be in the background, so moving her to SmackDown was probably a good idea in that situation. Yeah, unless I can't see them running Carmella against Bianca at SummerSlam. I know that they kind of teased it last year, but I guess we'll see. We've got about a month to go. I mean, obviously, I would just, unless they're going to hold off Becky and Bianca, but I can't see them holding off for another show. They could run it at that Clash of the Castle show. But they could do that. I could see that.
The Euro crowd.
Yeah, I mean that wouldn't be a bad idea. I mean, they already have a nice, big, huge crowd there, really, and the crowd will be really into it. So why not? I could see that for sure. I still think, I don't know what's going on with Ronda right now. I don't know what she's gonna move forward with, but
yeah, I don't know either. I think maybe her maybe her dates ran out.
Yeah, I don't
know.
On her
contract.
I could see her going away for a little bit if that's why she took off at the title. Took the title off her. There's still that Becky match that still hasn't happened.
But she's
worked for a long time.
She's worked a bunch of SmackDowns and stuff.
Yeah, sure.
She's worked pretty much a full-time schedule since she's been back. So maybe this is to take some time off, but I mean, you have SummerSlam around the corner. It's hard for me to imagine Ronda not being involved with SummerSlam, which then would lead me to that Becky Ronda match. They don't need belts for that match.
True, but
you have Becky who's coming off all these losses. You have Ronda coming off a loss. Maybe that's how you build it, like the biggest loser. They face off against each other.
You could see that. I could see that. If they're not doing a long-term building to Mania, which I originally thought they were doing. I mean, you could do something where, if Ronda goes away for a while, maybe she comes back, gets drafted to Raw.
Yeah.
Then maybe around the end of the year, she goes to Raw, goes full heel, takes the title off Bianca, and then you can set up the Mania match that way and have Becky, turn back. Sure, the crowd would definitely react for that, but we'll see what happens. It's kind of nice to not have too much predictability in the situation, but I do hope that you use this opportunity to kind of reset the women's divisions.
Yeah,
obviously it doesn't look like they're bringing the tag titles back, and that's probably a good idea.
Yeah, it looks like the tag titles are retired.
I mean, I was never a big fan of them bringing them on anyway. It seemed to be just doing it for the sake of doing it. In NXT, it's okay because you have a lot of talent down there that needs things to work with, so I'm fine with it. But with these belts, they weren't really needed.
No,
we'll see what happens. Obviously, we still don't know about the Sasha Naomi situation, but
the match. My opinion, the match of the night was the tag match. Usos, Street Profits. Just another barn burner of a tag match. You had the false finishes, you had the high spots. Just another phenomenally done match. They set up for obviously probably one last stand at SummerSlam between the two teams. And Charlie had texted me during the show. He's like, they're probably going to put some sort of stipulation where the Street Profits will have to break up if they don't win the belts. And then that way you don't have the old way of like one partner turns on the other partner. Then it could just be
Right.
they split up because of the stipulation.
Yeah, that I actually kind of thought about that myself with another friend and I, where we were talking in a different group about that. Yeah, it's kind of like we saw that with SU last year against the Bucks. Yeah, I wouldn't mind it because I don't think you have to turn either of them to split them off and to get them going. I honestly think both. If I know we'll talk about Montez Ford. Obviously, is probably a huge focus. They've been talking a lot about commentary. They're mentioning how much shape he's getting in.
Yep.
The dude is charismatic. The dude is athletic. The dude has everything you need.
Yeah.
And I've been saying it for a couple of years. I'm like, this guy should be a world champion or could be a world champion. Give him a couple of years. Dawkins is not no slouch himself. Like when I used to see this,
but he doesn't have the same natural charisma or the mic work that Tez has.
Yeah, he would probably more of a mid card role, but Tez has, like, if they want it, like I said, he has the potential to go wherever they want to go with him.
Yep.
And the match was fantastic. Like I said, match of the night for sure. You start off a little slow, but they got the crowd into it. They tore the roof off without all the cliches you can think of. The Usos are still proving that they're like one of the best tag teams anywhere. And I'll put it up there. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could put them against anybody. Imagine them against the Bucks. We've seen them a little bit with the FDR. I'd love to see them match again. These guys could go with pretty much anybody.
I said on this show, one of the episodes, the Usos, in my opinion, with their body of work over the last 10 years now, 11 years, 12 years they've been in WWE at this point.
Yeah, about
12 years,
12 years this summer. Yeah, 12 years this summer, yeah.
They've been together longer than probably any tag team in the history of WWE. Consecutively, like, they've been together for 12 years. And for me, they just, like, they keep getting better and better. And you don't see that with tag teams, like, ever. Like, they developed from the original incarnations of the Island Boys to, the more street Usos, and now the Bloodline faction. It's just been incredible. The in-ring, incredible. And it doesn't matter what kind of match it is. It could be tables match, it could be a cage match, it could be an old school style match. It could be like at WrestleMania when it was the Bludgeons, the New Day, and them, where it was just a squash match. That match was still a good match. And that's because you have you have the Usos and obviously have the New Day. But in my opinion, the Usos are the greatest tag team in the history of WWE/F. There's not a better tag team. Edge and Christian were only together for a year and a half, right? The Hardys didn't have this kind of run. And the Hardys were cookie cutter. They did the same stuff every single match. And they had match types that they always went to. Like, oh, we're going to do a TLC match. We're going to do this. The Dudleys. Love the Dudleys. They're one-trick pony team. They really were. They were great. The Usos outshine all those tag teams from, like, the Attitude Era. You want to go before that, the Hart Foundation, LOD, Demolition, Steiner Brothers. I put the Usos against any of those tag teams and have the argument that they are better than any of them. You could agree to disagree. It's just my opinion.
Yeah, I'd have a hard time making an argument against that. the body of work they put on, like you said, the way they've reinvented themselves in every incarnation. I mean, even when Jimmy was out and Jay kind of had that run, the main
Yep.
event Jay Uso run, which was
Yep.
great. And then they came back together, but they didn't feel like a demotion. It felt like a promotion. Both of them
Yep.
were raised up. And obviously, I mean, it's not a big. It's not me going on a limb here talking about how this bloodline angle, just the Roman's whole thing, the last 2 years hasn't been one of the best things that's been going on in the company in over a decade.
Yep.
But these guys just kill it every time. Different opponents, they always kill it. Street Papa Tongue in there with them. I'll give them their credit. They've gotten a lot better over the years. When I saw them, that when they went down involved, they started really working hard.
Yeah.
But they had a tremendous chemistry. But Usos seem to have that with pretty much everybody. Let's be honest. But I want to give them their props as well. That's the reason I said that. But yeah, I am looking forward to the one final match coming up. I'm sure they'll kill it even more, and from there we'll see what goes on. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to make an argument against them as being maybe perhaps the best in company history. If we're going match quality, just putting everything together. Yeah, yep. I can see that.
So I guess we'll go in this order. We had Theory and Lashley. Solid match. I think, I guess when we talk about the men's Money in the Bank match, we'll talk more about Theory. But I don't necessarily mind Lashley as the U.S. champion again, considering that it's the highest title on Raw. And Lashley is coming off of being, the Universal Champion and whatever title he had. So I don't mind it. I knew they were setting up for something because it just seemed really odd to take the belt off of Theory that quickly. Which leads us to the men's Money in the Bank match. So all the participants think they've entered the ring and the bell's going to, start the match. Adam Pearce comes out, says, hey, we're going to add one more person to the mix and raise the stakes because we're in Vegas. Out comes Theory. All the participants are they're pissed because he didn't earn his way like they did into the match. I thought this men's Money in the Bank match was pretty solid. It showcased Omos pretty well. I'm not the biggest fan of him as a solo guy. I think they did a disservice to him by breaking him off of AJ that quickly. I think he needed like a good year or more with AJ as a tag team. He just doesn't have it yet. He's missing something. I don't know if he's ever going to get it because he's very sluggish in the ring. Like he's unsure of himself. And that's very scary when you put that kind of guy in a Money in the Bank ladder match because he could potentially just really, really hurt someone. And for that matter, you have Madcap Moss in the match. He does a powerbomb to Sami Zayn on that ladder. I'm like, he basically dropped him on his neck on that ladder, and like instead of aiming for his back on the ladder. So you had two guys in this match that are just very green. But other than that, I mean, I liked the match. Seth Rollins is always good. Riddle's always good. Drew's good. Sheamus is very underrated. Sami Zayn. I don't know what to think of Sami Zayn anymore. Like, his character is what it is. You know what he's become? It's sad. He's become the new Santino Marella. He's like the comedy act of WWE.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. Maybe to a different extent, obviously, maybe like the heel version of that same thing. Although I think it gets, because even Santino will get thrown into some bigger programs. I mean, he's tremendous. He's tremendous. Whatever he does, like even though it's like you said, it's a very it's putting him in a different kind of box. But I mean, he does his best at it, and he gets a reaction. I kind of met, of course, we all look back to the classic version of him. I mean, if anything, I think it saved his run there. I know it maybe we not like what's going on. He's pretty much like a guy that they know, like Vince knows they can put the trust in him, and like you put him in a celebrity match like they just did, and maybe you could trust like him and Miz are like those kind of guys. Maybe at this point in his career, he's done a lot of crazy stuff. Maybe he just, he's enjoying being silly, having a little fun. I don't think, I don't know if he's, he's got a big run left in him. I'm sure, like you could beat anybody up. I could have seen, I couldn't have seen him winning, but I could see a story they could have done. Obviously, his thing that's going on with the bloodline is pretty entertaining. You could have done something where he wanted, no, I'm not going to cash it in on Roman. He could have done all that. I don't know if they're setting him up for a babyface turn, but even if they do, he's probably still going to be kind of a goofball type of character.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just who he is. He's just very naturally goofy. But
let me ask you something. Why wasn't Kevin Owens involved in this Money in the Bank ladder match?
I couldn't tell you that. I mean, I know he was supposed to be in a qualifier, so I don't know. Something happened. I still don't know what exactly went on the other night, but I would have assumed he would have been in this match otherwise. I mean, he's been on a run himself over the last year, ever since they started running that program with him and Big E over, towards the end of last year.
Yeah.
He's been even obviously how he's gotten this whole Ezekiel angle over himself with by sheer force of his charisma alone and his mic skills.
Yeah.
He's another one. He's kind of a comedy role, but he can be serious at the same time in a second and turn it on. So, I'm not as worried about him. It does stink that he wasn't around for this match for sure. I'm pretty sure he would have had that spot that Moss got. I know they're trying to push him a little bit. I mean, I know we talked about him seeming a little green. I mean, he was in the system a long time, but I mean, obviously he has a great look.
Yep.
He can talk. He's not the worst on the mic. He's starting to find himself a little bit. I think he needs to change his look up a little bit. He's a little too generic, but I mean, I can't see him being just another one of these guys that they try to push out there and then flames out. Maybe not for any fault of his own, but just, the fact that he's so generic.
Yeah.
I guess they tried to put him in there. I mean, the rest of the guys in there, they held their own. Omos, obviously, like you said, he's just never going to be a great wrestler. I mean, they probably, like you said, they did break him off from AJ a little too soon. I'm glad they put him with MVP. He's got something. I mean, they booked him as well as you possibly could for a guy with as little talent as he has. They do know how to book giants. It's one thing they usually did well in this company, maybe outside of Big Show sometimes. But I thought in this match they utilized him pretty well. He was played the monster. They were trying to bury him. He woke up. It's like, Frankenstein and chasing people, whatever you want, whenever any kind of cliche you want to put in an analogy. So he did pretty well. Riddle is obviously, I mean, he's done an incredible job. He might be one of the best NXT call-ups they've had over the last couple of years.
Yeah. With
his first 6 months, everybody, he was kind of touch and go, but he's really got himself to that point where he's pretty much perpetually over and beloved by the crowd. And they definitely wanted him to win that match. You can see it. And this whole RK Bro thing turned out to be one of the biggest things they've done in years. And it kind of seemed out of nowhere, to use a term here, how that happened. But tremendous performance in the match. That RKO off the ladder was pretty crazy. A lot of crazy spots near the end. Yeah, it was definitely one of the better Money in the Bank matches.
All signs point to Rollins and Riddle at SummerSlam.
Yeah, I can see that.
Which is fine. Well, so the winner
kind of stuck in between. Yeah. Go ahead.
The winner of the Money in the Bank briefcase ends up being Theory, which Twitter is just ablaze right now of of course Theory wins the Money in the Bank. I mean, there was only 3 options that they could have done, right? It was Riddle, okay, who has lost to Roman already. So that kind of negated that. So the only logical fit would have been Rollins.
Mm-hmm.
which in my opinion would have been a better storyline for a hot angle for SummerSlam if he did a cash in during Brock and Roman, because that's happened before.
Right.
And it could have been a way to get one of the titles off of Roman, and you'd have one on Raw and one on SmackDown. Call it a day.
Oh yeah, you could have definitely played something with the contract saying, "Oh, maybe this contract is only for one of the titles." You know, they could have definitely done something like that.
You have Paul Heyman involved, and you're like,
yeah,
when we have the contracts out, you know,
just says Universal title, doesn't say
it says one. It says for it says a championship match. It doesn't say
both,
for both championships.
Yeah, I mean they've kind of booked themselves. I mean, well, that's not really their fault. Randy not being available kind of hurt them. Obviously, that everything was pointing towards that for SummerSlam, and it would have made sense.
And also because of Cody's injury,
yeah, a lot of stuff had to be turned around.
It was going to be Cody's moment, but
I think I guess they decided to just use the opportunity to try to push a new guy or to put a little more behind Theory, a little more heat behind him. And obviously, like you said, a lot of people are saying, of course. So it's like they're kind of buying into the storyline, like they're blending real life with fiction. With well, that's Vince's boy. I'm like,
what's funny is I think was it 4 years ago, 5 years ago, when we first had this conversation, when we both knew about Austin Theory out of Evolve. I was like, man, if he ever goes to WWE, he is Vince McMahon's wet dream. He has everything that Vince McMahon loves. He's got a good look. He's got a good body where he's not like ultra big, but he's still athletic. I was like, he looks like John Cena and Randy Orton. Like he's in that kind of mold that Vince gravitates towards. Then he went into NXT the first time, and then he didn't really set NXT on fire. Got brought up to the main roster with Seth, right?
Yeah, well, first, they brought him up for the Mania, the first Mania after the pandemic.
With Selena, with Andrade.
Yeah, they had him like substitute because
COVID.
Andrade, somebody was out. Was it Andrade? Wait, who did he team? He teamed with Andrade. He was supposed to be, well, whatever. He had to be the replacement. That tag match, and then they kind of did that for a bit. Then they put him with Seth. Then he was taken off TV. There were some
allegations and whatever, but. Then he ends up going back to NXT, and although he didn't win any belts or any titles, his little storyline with the Garganos and Indy, it brought out more of his character and what he can do, character work-wise. And I think that's what really piqued Vince's interest even more. And when he got brought up back up, I said, well, it's very rare where a guy gets called up, gets sent down, then gets called back up again. Usually when you get sent down, that's it. Like you're going to be there until creative has nothing left to do for you, right?
Right.
So he gets called back up, and I'm like, oh, they're going to strap the rocket to this guy. They see what me and Frank saw 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And the funny thing is, when he started doing those things with Vince McMahon, I remembered the conversations that we had. And I'm like, man, isn't that crazy that I said he is Vince's wet dream, and literally he's involved with Vince McMahon in storyline.
Yeah, and look what it did for him. I mean, it was a little strange, a little awkward, but he got a huge WrestleMania, situation out of it. And obviously, look where he U.S. champion. Now he's moved on to the Money in the Bank winner. His work in NXT definitely, that was a good point, showed a lot of character, because in Evolve he was more of your generic cocky heel. He was good on the mic. He was very good at that. but he showed more of his comedic side. Now he's kind of like a hybrid right now, I would say.
Yep.
I mean, he still obviously has to evolve this character, to use a pun, no pun intended, to be into that main event level. He's not going to be able to, run this whole selfie thing. But just the situation, the alliance with Vince and all that is obviously kind of helped get him over more as a heel. Because if he was just brought up as this character, he could have died a death pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So as awkward as those Vince segments were, they've obviously helped. I can see maybe people not understanding the choice tonight, and maybe it's not the most obvious choice. Obviously, we're gonna be okay with it, knowing we've been high on him for many years. But sometimes you got to take a chance. Sometimes you got to strap a rocket somewhere.
So let's do our typical long-term fantasy booking. Cody comes back, wins the Royal Rumble. Cody beats Roman Reigns, right? WrestleMania, wherever. Immediately after that match, or the Raw after WrestleMania, Theory just does the cash-in of a lifetime and ruins the dream, quote unquote. Wouldn't that just be he would be the biggest heel ever? And then if Vince is attached to it, you can even go into the whole backstory that the McMahons didn't like the Rhodes family. And Vince gets on the mic, I never liked your father, blah, blah, blah. And you got this, and I took the dream away from you. And this is my guy, and he's the future. And then you can create sort of a new rivalry for the next 2 or 3 years from that cash-in.
Yeah, that's interesting. Kind of interesting thought there for sure. I think either way, Cody winning the title at Mania makes the most sense, but that definitely would create something interesting and be kind of different than what they normally do. But the stuff you brought up about their backstory with the Rhodes and the McMahon family, I can see them doing that. That does sound like something they would be into.
Yeah.
You could do. It's kind of like paralleling, the Cody MJF stuff, where he cost him the title, then he couldn't challenge for anymore, then he lost him and never really got his revenge on him. I mean, heck, another 2 years we might be seeing that same match again. I'm not predicting anything, but yeah, I could definitely see that you could set up something, have him chase the title till SummerSlam next year if you really want to put SummerSlam as a big deal next year, or something I saw somewhere else online. Imagine if if Cody had won the case, imagine Cody, wins the opportunity to get one more title shot, and he has one stipulation, and he wants to have instead of the pay-per-view, whatever it's the name of it is, you can say this is going to be the Great American Bash. This is my dad's pay-per-view. I'm going to face you in a cage match, something like that. I could see something like that with Cody, but you can definitely run it a bunch of different ways with this. I don't think he's going to cash in right away, like we said, but because
I think the future is guys like Theory,
sure,
Cody, Riddle,
Montez, maybe
Montez. I mean, even Rollins is still in that tier. And then you obviously in NXT, you would hope that Braun Breaker would take the next step forward.
Yeah.
And be one of those guys as well. Then
I definitely hope.
You still have Drew McIntyre, and you still have Roman and Lashley, who are when all else fails, we can give these guys the belt for a little bit, and eventually Randy will come back, whether it's his full-time Randy or part-time Randy. And he could always mix it up with whoever. But I don't know. I'm not as upset as a lot of people because I've been a believer in Theory for a few years now. I really just booked myself into fantasy book dreamland and wanted Seth to win. Because I think that would have been a great cash in scenario, and then it's more short term booking than long term booking. But I think in the short term, it would have helped the product. I like the direction though of this, because it seems like instead of taking the short term easy fix route, they're taking a guy who obviously they can take their time with, and when the cash in happens, they can make it special, like the first time that Seth cashed in.
Right. Or you could have, like you said, that big, maybe the night after, like that Dolph Ziggler moment, but hopefully, this would really put him over the top. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe we're giving too much credit to WWE Creative right now, but
No, probably. And
it's pretty much, but it's out there, like it's right in front of their face. Like you said, you just laid out who they should be building this company around the next couple of years. I know Cody, he only just turned 37. Cody's got several years in his prime left. Rollins as well. He's still mid-30s. Rollins still has many years left. I mean, look what Sheamus is doing. What is he, like 46 at this point? Yeah. The guy's like in the best shape of his career, still killing it. I think obviously Braun Breaker is obviously a big project for them. He gets better every time I see him. So
yep.
I have high hopes for him. I also have high hopes. I don't know if they do, but I definitely am a big fan of Carmelo Hayes down at NXT. I know he's not as big, but he has the build. He's got the mic skills, so it could make up for a lot of that. And if they don't mess with him up, he could be another player in a couple of years, maybe very soon. I don't know if they're planning on calling Braun up anytime soon, but I think he's made some appearances on Raw. He didn't look too lost. I could see it happening, after SummerSlam, but I guess time will tell there.
Yep. I think, and we appreciate all those that are going to watch this show once it's posted. Please comment down below your thoughts on the live event, premium live event, as they call them now, Money in the Bank. Did you like the decision to go with Theory as the Money in the Bank winner this year? If you did, say, yeah, type in Theory. If you wanted someone else to win, type their name and your reason why you wanted to see them win. We will end up doing some giveaways in the future based on comments and random comments, and taking all that information. There'll be some prizes given out. We appreciate your time. Sorry that Charlie couldn't join us. I hope he's okay. Thanks, Frank, for joining. You were supposed to be the third wheel, and you became the co-host, which is fine. Luckily, luckily you know about wrestling and watch the show. So,
guys, please, please let us know what you guys thought. Whatever, if you're angry, that's fine. I'm glad. Hopefully, one way or another, you had a reaction to the show. That's a good thing. I think at least we have some stuff to discuss, which is good coming out of a supposedly bigger pay-per-view or live event.
Yeah.
So definitely be interested to see what happens in the road to SummerSlam coming up here. Yeah, guys, let us know what you thought. Thanks again for having me on. I did overall enjoy the show tonight. So
yeah, I did
see
too.
What everybody else thinks.
Yeah, and once again, this is a special Money in the Bank post show brought to you by the Chamber Pod. We have episodes that dropped today. We had the Royal Rumble 1994 episode that dropped today. And we also had our mid-year award show that dropped today as well. So please check those out. If you join the Patreon membership for $9.99 a month, you will get basically a really cool perk of picking whatever kind of wrestling or baseball show, like whatever topic you want us to do, we'll do it. And you can even come on and host it with us or be a part of the panel. And you can do that once a month, every month. So that's a pretty cool perk. Yeah, so this is the Chamber Pod. Thank you very much. And as always, good night, good luck, and good night.